Could do the
You may
Carol.
want to second guess that.
Could do the Carol basket.
All right, we good? All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the special meeting of the Guymon City Council. First agenda, call to order.
Living Good,
Item 2, attendance roll call.
Living Good,
Here.
Peterson, Swager,
Here.
Alvedras,
Present.
Egger,
Aye. Here.
Hoffman. Here. Mr. Petty,
Here.
Mr. Denham.
Here.
For all you guys viewing online, please bear with us. We're having a little bit of sound difficulty. Item 3, discussion and possible action on the opening of businesses according to the State of Oklahoma Open Up and Recover Safely Hours Plan. My question for Chief Wadley is, based off this data that you've given us, I see it's 85 for the county, 57 for Guymon. Based off this, does this look like we're in the middle of a peak? We're on the downward slope? I mean, I can't really tell.
I don't believe our peak is, I believe our peak are next 2 3 weeks. And how we come up with this is, we don't believe the infections from Oklahoma are really affecting Canada. In such a high agricultural area, we're seeing the large amounts of contacts with people who are from Dodge City, Garden City, Liberal, Guymon, Cactus, and Eagles, that area before national meetings. JBS, high schools, and a lot of those around. I don't mean to make it saying it's coming from a very close to large reporters in the area.
Okay.
So would it be fair to say at 85, if there's 22,000 people in the county, we're at, 0.004%?
To be honest, I can't really, I don't really know what that number is good to say.
Okay.
For everybody, everything that you see here, the number of positives, there are more positives out there than they're showing.
All right.
There are people that are doing the right thing, staying inside and watching themselves. There are others that are probably doing social distancing as best they can, or positive, control the lives of themselves. We feel right now, we're starting to see this last weekend, today, we're seeing actually 7 people in Texas County, 9 in one, 24 hours.
So do we know where Amarillo and Woodward said as far as open ventilators, or what percent they're running? The only reason I ask that is truly because if our cases increase, right, can they handle us if we open up? And I mean, I think everybody could agree there's going to be a little spike, but
Right now, Oklahoma doesn't have kind of a plan in place, we're still working on Woodward. Put it back up. The state of Oklahoma has not officially named any COVID hospital. No one hospital and COVID hospital. So I know a lot of us heard this, but I actually got some of the conversation. My property administrator in Woodward, they are taking COVID patients. They feel like they've got the facilities they can handle. Many COVID patients, like 4 or 5 critical ill patients, and then if they need to go further than that, they can transfer them over to Guymon. We've been transferring patients to Woodward for the last week to Guymon. Our hospital does have some capability. They do have ventilators here, but we have an ICU. That's a problem. They're able to maintain ventilator support. Medically speaking, we take care of COVID. That's a tough question, because if you're saying positive, the people who are at home, they don't need any medical care. But then you're lumping in everybody saying COVID. For the time being, we feel that we probably have the medical facilities to take care of people initially, and we can move them, transfer them off to the system. We feel that we respond to that.
Mr. Egger, I did catch the news before I came, and Northwest down in Amarillo, they're at 60% use of their ventilators right now.
The difficult part targeting moving patients out of non-clinical level. Most states are now we've got enough, we want to take care of our own people, our own state, and I understand. It's real critical that we will take the patients that have other medical issues. Please understand, the people that are getting the sickest do not just have COVID by themselves. They have other problems that are being addressed. So target hospitals have to their expertise coming into play, but not
Do you know how many pending cases we still are at by any chance?
I can give you pretty much what clinics are giving me.
Okay.
In the 30 range,
Pending?
pending, and I did not give members of the health department today. I'm the same, probably 50 range.
Okay, so that'd be down. I guess we were, to finish last week, we were in the hundreds, right?
Pending.
Thought I saw something.
Yeah, I thought it was like
104?
yeah,
Something like that. So it's down, at least from a pending standpoint.
How many, out of the number we have, how many active cases that haven't gone into remission, or however you want to term it? Recovery, I guess.
Because sometimes the people go to remission or on remission, but more to recovery, we feel like, because the way the state does it, after you've done positive on a test, only 14 days after you're okay. Where we do that, we got tested 5 days in, we got tested, then we got 13th day. You start 14 days after the test, there's so many different differences. A lot of people don't follow that up. So, most of these that you're seeing right here, in yellow, those are pretty much active. Out of that, but maybe less than 10 that are recovery.
So does that mean there's 57 active in Guymon that are active? Right.
Is the health department one of those that's
No, we're pretty much some of this. We're doing, St. Anne's is also doing, we're told that urgent care is also doing, urgent care.
well, we have a lady up here that was sick last Tuesday, she couldn't be tested. So I don't know if
We hear that also, which is great source too. But a lot of times when people are going up to these places for testing, just having a sniffling nose and not having all of the symptoms does not mean that you're going to be tested right away. You may be tested for flu, you may be tested for strep, which is perfectly common. You do have strep, you do have some flu going around.
No, she's high risk.
Ones that are higher risk, and have these three of the signs and symptoms of being tested. I'm asking all physicians, officers, one part, who are high risk and have all three, probably tested.
So those reports, you think they're false, Chief, as far as when people say that they went to get tested, but they got postponed for a couple of days? You think in a scenario where they're...
More than just saying, hey, I couldn't do it, I think we can
Okay.
I went out there and they may tell somebody, I had a cough, short of breath, I had a fever, and when I got up there, they didn't want to test me. They would probably test me, but they didn't have a fever, didn't have a cough, really no showing signs of short of breath. And these are only because of things going on inside us, coming through that. Only, sometimes they may be holding those tests for people that have all or other factors involved. The other thing is, we may ask you, if you've ever known somebody that's been positive, no.
Right. To your knowledge, are all those tests administered, are they free?
They are the right.
They are at the Texas County Health Clinic?
Do you know how many tests we have available and how long it takes to get extra tests?
As I was walking in here, I just saw from the health department, another county that's not over the testing and stuff. And if I was able to throw it a little low what means under 100. But still, testing, they should come tomorrow and
So with, sorry. Go
Is
ahead.
there any reason why we're not testing more out at Seaboard? I mean, we've got 1,700 people out there, and we've got a total of, we've tested how many people, did you say? 200 maybe? And that seems to be the hot spot. I don't understand why we're not testing more out there.
And it's not necessarily, by chance, it's one of the other things, probably people that work there that have it, but it's not getting that point necessarily. It may be what they're doing in their own personal life, that is going on.
I think one of the things I'd heard is
I'm
one
not
reason.
trying to point fingers, I
think one of the things I'd heard, Larry, to your question, is like one reason Hooker's so high is because you have a lot of national beef where it did kind of get out of control living there. Same with Cactus coming in, that Seaboard plant had really kind of got ahead of the game. And they were doing a lot of changing the lunch hours, they had plexiglass between the tables, and making them I mean, that's been going on 3 weeks.
Yeah,
or-
multiple disinfecting, and
Yeah.
at night they're fogging it, so.
And Guymon has tons of commuters, and we're in between two hotbeds.
Yeah,
And one nationally recognized hotbed, right?
yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, if you
that's-
look at Liberal,
That's why we can't stress enough the distancing and everything that needs to happen. With your numbers and your data that you have to work with, do you think the city, since Texas County Memorial or Texas County Health Clinic is the only free testing site, is there anything the city can do to help them out in any way, shape, or form as far as the testing that needs to be performed? That way, if they get backed up, do you see that any avenue there that the city could take? And you could answer too, Mr. Donovan.
The reason I can say that is it's the state.
Well, they brought the National Guard in and tested 84 that day, that they had their test out at the activity center, and it was all comers. I mean,
And I understand the National Guard, here too, that the National Guard came in. The National Guard was actually their crew. They were only here to simply take the kids from here and take them straight to Stillwater.
they got their picture in the paper. Their picture's in the paper.
But the tests are coming from laboratories approved by Oklahoma. So only the health department has control of those tests. And really, they're the ones that know what's going on in Cincinnati. And then, it's the state. They're locally,
Understood. I was just thinking, since Guymon is the largest city in the county, maybe there's something that we could do, but.
They have the right here, I mean, you still go to the, what they say, yes. They can send them out.
Do you think we're meeting the requirements to open up showing that symptoms are down, on the downward trend, or number of cases being flat or going down? Yes, I'm asking your opinion.
These are only because of things that are going on inside us, coming to you. And people, what our temperatures, go out, together, gathering,
Easter weekend.
Easter weekend. So data is correct. This is what you see today. This is all correct. 85 active in Texas County, 57 here in Guymon. This is still showing what's going on 2 weeks ago. What's going on in the last 2 weeks? Water temperatures are new one. Wow. Together, another trying to do the social distancing. There are some people that are showing signs of that's good.
Do you think the heat will subside it a bit?
No, I mean, I would hope so, but I don't know what
Mr. Petty, if we decide to go ahead and let the restaurants open, what type of liability does the city have?
City doesn't have anything. I think the city can simply follow the governor's sheets that were just sent out, his program, make the recommendation those be followed. Basically, that program says we're going to leave it up to the cities, and it's got statements in there about distancing and mouth and nose covers and that kind of thing, but the city doesn't have any liability in connection with not being able to stop it. If you take reasonable steps to recommend to people, these are things that have been recommended by CDC and the state of Oklahoma. We recommend you follow those. There's not much you can do beyond that.
So one thing that says, David, and I have a question, Grant, probably to you too. The way it's stated is if hospital and incident rates remain manageable for 14 days, we move to phase 2.
What is that?
So phase 1 is the hair salons, phase 2 is restaurants, those things. But yeah, I guess that's what I'm
I
asking.
read that and had the same
Yeah.
question you do.
What is
What
it?
is
And
the
that's been my question this whole time. How will we ever know? If they're not here, we would never know, correct? Because they're not reporting back to you daily, chief, and going, hey, this many of your patients are doing this, right?
To get a little bit more local, county commissioners had a meeting today, and I invited County Commissioner Mr. Jack Strain here, and just to see what was the overall feeling in their meeting, and any type of advice that he would like to lend out to the city.
We did pass a resolution this morning, and I will leave this with you all if you want. Whereas the governor previously issued statewide orders, you all know all that, and has announced modifications to his previous orders easing restrictions. Whereas county commissioners believe that each area of the state of Oklahoma is subject to different conditions and circumstances, it must be carefully assessed with respect to easing of the restrictions on business and personal activity. Whereas Texas County has been experiencing a significant increase in the number of persons that have been confirmed to be infected, that it appears a serious threat to the spread thereof within Texas County remains extremely high. We therefore resolve that Texas County Courthouse should and will remain subject to restricted access by the public until further action of the commissioner, which will be reviewed on a weekly basis. It is further resolved that citizens of business in Texas County should continue to exercise extreme caution with respect to public and business activities, especially those involving personal contact with the public. All businesses are strongly encouraged to implement policies and practices that will ensure maximum extent possible that persons entering their businesses are afforded recommended personal information and other protection. And then the last deal said it is further resolved that due to commissioners not having regulatory authority, that each city and town within Texas County consider taking appropriate measures to further protect the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Texas County. And, you know, I got to agree with Chief Wadley one reason we did this is because over the last few days, we've had 7 cases, 9 cases, 13 cases, 15 cases. So I can't see that we're keeping our level at all. It's still going up. And so we felt it necessary to keep the courthouse closed for the safety of our people and to be able to continue work there. I will tell you that since we did this morning, we found out this afternoon that we have positive cases. There are 2 of them that I understand that they have both been home quarantine since last Thursday. They were both tested on Friday, from what I understand, and found out today that they were positive. So we're taking steps there as far as everybody in the courthouse is going to wear masks. If anybody gets, feel like they have any of these symptoms, we get tested. But that's what we did today, and again, I will leave it with you. Bill here to get
to the city manager.
and like I say, we know that we have no jurisdiction whatsoever within any of the cities in town. Since we passed that this morning, I've already been told that the only reason the county commissioners were coming here tonight was so we could petition you all to keep everything closed.
No, you were here, I invited you to come here to,
Strictly here just to tell you what we did as board county commissioners in our courthouse, because that courthouse is going to make it out here. So that's what we,
thank you very much. Thank you for coming, and once again, I invited Commissioner Jack Strain to come give us the overview of the meeting that they had earlier today, and he was here strictly on invite, and he agreed to come, and thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jack, can I ask a question? Was that mainly because you wanted, I mean, the reason for closing the courthouse was mainly to protect the people who work there?
Yes, I mean, because otherwise, we have no control over who comes in and who doesn't.
Right.
And we've got a person sitting there out when we've been in the courthouse and all, but just like well back here tonight, we've got a person sitting out there that takes everybody's temperature. Matt Rowley was governor with the testing stickers the other day, because he went in the courthouse about 4 times and got temperature taken every time they gave him the stickers, so he was going on stuff. We are still testing everybody and we'll continue to do so.
Thank you.
One thing, this morning, I was on a conference call with the Mayor's Council Board of Directors, and most of there are 18 mayors around the state on it. And this topic came up, and it was basically the consensus was to take about the same stance as the county has, to warn people, to be responsible for your own actions, I guess, is part of it. But also, it was brought up that if your community feels like you need to keep your city hall locked down or restrict access, that's within your right and purview. But most of it was that most of the conversation was to go forward and let the governor's orders go through, because they're out there and everybody knows that they want to open up, and if you need to stay sheltered in place, stay sheltered in place. You know, again, public responsibility or personal responsibility was the big topic, I guess I would say. And we don't want anybody to get sick, that's for sure.
No, that's for sure. And we followed every mandate the governor has put out, so everybody has to be responsible for their own person and their own families.
Yeah.
Mr. Dunham, if we do go ahead and open up the restaurants and such, will the city hall remain closed?
Yes. For right now, I don't see us opening up. I think we're going to try to reevaluate it. We'll reevaluate it on a weekly basis. Starting, I mean, we had a meeting today, talked about it, we'll meet again on Friday and talk about it, and see how things have changed, if they have changed. But I would not anticipate opening up City Hall until the state opens up for the Phase 2, which would be around May 15th.
So
And then everything's gonna kinda have to be in place. We're gonna have to be seeing some changes in our staffing and within the community, because we've got at least 3 employees right now out due to being quarantined, state ordered quarantine. We've had several in the past, over the past 2 or 3 weeks that have been out and then gotten cleared and come back. But so right now, we do have three people that have been told by the health department to self-quarantine.
Thank you.
My question's for you, Chief Wadley. Who's managing these? So if someone administers a case, right, they test them and they come back positive, who then, does someone follow up regularly with them and make sure, I mean, how do we, I know we can't police every case, right? We're not gonna send the police over and make sure they're still in their house, but does someone check on them, is my question.
Right now, that is up to the Department of Health. Even though they have plans and nurses in place, and people follow up and check.
Where's this data that we are supposed to review before Phase 2?
I would imagine it would just be off what our case number's doing. I think if we adopt this, and this is my opinion, you tell me if I'm wrong, is if we adopt this and every day it continuously is rising 20 more, or 50, 20 more, then I would say it's not flattening out, it's not going down. Now, if we just stay at, a couple a day, once we feel like we hit a peak and then it just continuously cruises at 3 to 5 cases, you're probably flattened out by that point, I would think, but.
Because Governor Stitt, he talked about data. If we meet this data point, we'll open Phase 2 and so forth,
I believe the governor is also looking at the data from the rest of the state, just the rest of the state is not on, starting to go on plateau, almost starting to go down, like staying at plateau.
except for Texas County out here, that's not the case here.
So Grant, correct me if I'm wrong on this. Originally, social distancing, all these phases, all this was put in place to give, it's not for probably me healthy with not a lot of underlying conditions getting the COVID. It's to make sure we have the medical facilities in case so we don't overrun them, correct? That's the reason for the social distancing. At some point, we're probably all going to get the coronavirus, unfortunately. So we want to make sure we have the medical facilities open to do that. That's the reason for this social distancing. That's what slowed it down. Is that right or wrong? That's my understanding from...
Mine as well, not to overwhelm the medical industry.
And I guess that's where I said,
because we don't
if
have,
we're not overwhelming that,
Right.
where do we set? I don't want to try to solve issues we don't have yet, because at some point, we're all going to run through the CV-19 or whatever you want to call it. All the what? Depression medicine? Yeah.
We're all talking about COVID. People still have contacts with them. Still have diabetes, still have strokes, still have renal failure. Those are tied to begin with. And right now, if people with those problems count up and have COVID on top of that, we have even worse.
Do you think Texas County, do you think we need to start our own database with our own numbers?
We actually have a task force that's doing that.
Okay,
We're running some roadblocks with the health department, to get that.
when was this established? Okay,
It's like our third case. And it goes to emergency management, because they have their access downstate, with the health department, who is in charge of this entire inventory state of health.
okay.
They will go. Product two, get a state level. All the first case in Texas County. Case out of Clipper, but was actually was found out by Facebook by an individual because the state inspectors, they know about it. And it took them several days to tell Oklahoma, tell us.
So that's where your data's coming from, this task force?
Some of it is, but the task force has to be in line with what the state is doing. And also, we have to make sure that the numbers are correct. These 85 numbers, I can tell you, are correct.
Okay.
I can tell you those dimensions. If you know some others that are positive, the state has not got yet. So it has not used it. So we're not going to, but I hope we have more because the state is.
So tomorrow when it's climbs, that directly comes from the Oklahoma Health Department? Okay.
Are most, so, and you may not know this, but I read online, obviously, Ford County's hot right now with this virus. Correct. And what I read on an article that was released by someone up there by Dodge, can't remember who, was most of these cases were not coming, they were mainly younger people from issues of social distancing not going on outside of work. Is that a common trend that people are seeing?
I've not heard that.
Okay. So of these 85, do you have a percentage that are hospitalized roughly?
The last 48 hours, I've been advised, 6. None of them hospitalized.
Those are the only ones that you currently,
That I'm aware of. Three less.
And we ship those out, is that right, Grant?
If we go ahead and open up the restaurants now, the bars are supposed to remain closed until May 15th. What about a restaurant that serves liquor? Will they be able to serve
sit
liquor?
at a table.
It's a restaurant.
It's a restaurant.
It's a
Restaurant. So will they be able to serve alcohol?
Yeah.
I think what I saw, what I read into the thing is part of the, for restaurants and establishments like that, is you gotta observe, you can only have 50% of your occupancy, I think, in the building. You have to go to social distance on your tables, and you gotta have, like, every other booth's gotta be vacant. But I guess I would assume that if they can't sit at the bar, I don't know. I don't know all the rules.
That's my take on it. I mean, we followed the governor's mandates up until now. It's just, we need to, in phase one, review the data on the given date or before the given date for phase two. And if it's climbing, like Mayor Livingood said, then we possibly need to step on the brakes a little bit. That's my opinion.
So do we have a way to enforce phase the rules? If, I mean, to Kim's point, if it's tables, social distancing, I mean, is there a way to make sure someone's not violating? or they're at 50% occupancy, I mean,
Well, I guess I'm gonna put my business out here. We're gonna make sure that people do, because I want people to be able to come in and, you know,
Right.
whatever, but again, it's like, if you're running the temperature, if you got the signs or whatever, stay at home. I mean, and that's a simple deal, but also the phase one that we gotta also consider is that, this weekend churches can start going back. Not some of them are, some of them aren't. And movie theaters can open up, so.
And there are gonna be those people that are still gonna practice safer at home. I mean, it's all gonna depend on the person and the family.
What about the people that don't follow the rules? And I've already heard that we have one in particular that is not wearing a mask or gloves, but getting haircuts. And that's, you know, are we going to enforce the rules? Or how are we going to enforce it?
Well, my understanding is that if we would enforce the rules by complaint, I mean, we're not gonna have police officers go into businesses and randomly check. It'd be by complaint, that we would address it. Then we'd have the we would go one and say, business owner, here's the rules. And then if they continually violated the rules, after we'd made several attempts to get them to conform, we would have the police go down and issue a warrant. Is that, am I saying that right?
No, we don't have ordinances that really allow prosecution in the city. This action is, that prohibits activities is a state action. And my view of it is, our officers can make the report to the district attorney's office.
Right.
And at that point, it's up to them to do whatever they have the power to do in the state law. But we don't have, our ordinances don't address enforcing a regulation in connection with a communicable disease.
Enforcement would be at the state level.
Pardon?
Enforcement would be at the state level.
That's what I think.
It's good to know.
Any other discussion?
I received a phone call about dentist office. Mr. Dunham, is there anywhere listed here about
There was
dental offices?
there was a new executive order amendment come out today
Okay.
that does address dental offices until, that they would remain closed until May 1st.
Till May 1st?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then in there, does it give what requirements they must have? I think the concern is the lack of PPE. Obviously, most of the PPE's been given to the hospital system rightfully, for a good reason. But do they have guidelines they have to follow through the state? I couldn't find anything. 'Cause I had to call
In
dentist
the
office as well.
executive order, where I read through the changes that have been made, I could not see any areas where they were giving any criteria as far as opening or closing. Just trying to find the,
But most dentists already, they follow those PPEs.
Right, From the
before
moment you
it's all
walk
started.
in, they have PPE and changing everything. all the way. So say we go forward with this, will we have a weekly meeting, discussing the data? And if it spikes, we will think about it?
Probably should be this time.
I think through this time, it's in our best interest to meet weekly, and if it spikes, I think it's kind of hard to justify moving forward, to phase 2. My thought, I don't know, you guys have any?
The chief just told us he thinks we're gonna spike in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah,
But we haven't spiked yet.
everything's showing it's gonna spike.
And it's kinda hard to put the genie back in the, back
You're
in
saying
the
we're
bottle.
spiking now, we won't see a plateau for 2
It will
weeks.
continue to go.
And it's gonna be awful hard to get people to stop once we let them loose.
Yeah, I don't think you can get it back.
Well, the day that this deal rolled out, within 30 minutes, the beauty shops were taking appointments, so.
Yeah.
Once again, it's gonna fall on the business owner and the person making the visit to wherever they're visiting.
I would say that if somebody is over 65 or is in that vulnerable,
High risk.
high-risk individual, whether they're harassment or not, they probably ought to be staying home.
I think that's in his order still. In phase 1, it still says no visitation of nursing homes over the age of 65 or underlying
Well,
health issues. You still,
I'd have a question of Mr. Petty. If, let's say, we go forward this resolution and we see a tremendous spike in the next 2 days, can the mayor could issue an executive proclamation, couldn't he? Or would it be better to have an emergency council
I question the power of the city.
in this deal?
As I read this, we don't have an ordinance that allows it. Statutes, and the only statute I find that for an organization or an agency that can impose rules and regulations in connection with communicable diseases is the State Board of Health. And of course, the governor can act on that. That's where it has to come from.
so if we move forward, we can't do anything to,
All we can do, I think, is encourage people to observe the governor's guidelines that have been published, and in the event of a violation of those, report that to the district attorney's office, and that's,
so I guess
we've
here's,
just got some limitations. but
here's
that's what we can do.
another question. So let's say we decide not to move forward, right? And a restaurant decides, hey, the governor said May 1st I can open. We can't do anything unless,
I think that's right.
That's what I
The
understand.
governor is basically.
so basically, whether we want to open or not, the governor has said open, and they're going to supersede what a municipality is going to want to do regardless.
Yeah,
Well, I
don't
thought the
find any
governor was
authority
leaving it
for
up
us
to
stop it.
He is, but it's for
But
enforcement.
we don't have any enforcement.
You have no
It's just like
enforceable
Oklahoma
option.
City did
But
not
they-
allow.
But they may have had an ordinance on the book that they could have
Yeah, we currently
reverted
don't,
back.
so we have no way to enforce any of these rules.
Well, I'll tell you, as a business owner that's been open since this thing started, I wonder every day who's walking in my door. And, will the day be my day? Or my help's day? And it's not any fun, I'll be honest with you.
Well, I think that's, I've been working out and about, going through facilities for a month now, and come in contact with a lot of people every single day, and I think the only thing you can do as a citizen is wear proper PPE around others. Obviously, sanitize yourself.
Where do you get them?
Sanitize
your mat,
yourself,
Mr. Petty?
and then at home.
There's ladies all over town building.
Yeah.
We've bought them.
Yeah.
And then I think you gotta protect yourself when you're at home. If you have a family, keep your kids home, designate one person to go to the grocery store and be out. Obviously, I'm out, so I'm the grocery store runner, and I go get those things to try to keep my family safe. But I think it's ultimately gonna come down to, if the governor said to open, we don't have a way to enforce it. It's gonna come down to the individual, the head of house, or whoever is in charge of that family to police themselves. We don't have an ordinance to cover
Well,
those things.
it boils down to, we've all been put in a very tough position here with no enforceable rights up on us to enforce it. And where I personally have gotten myself to through this meeting, and Mr. Wadley, thank you, I know you answered a lot of questions, but the intent of this, at the end of the day, I still say, was to make sure our medical facilities could handle the load
I believe so.
And catch our PPE
and
up.
catch our PPE up, which I think to some extent we've done. I know my little neighbor lady has made over 200 masks that she's handed out to the sheriff's office and everybody else. But I think we're there to some point, to Sean's point, at some point we have to protect ourselves too.
Every citizen needs to review the open up and recovery safely plan. There's the phases, or, do we have that posted on our website?
It should be, but I'll
Okay.
double check.
If not, it's at the Oklahoma
It's on the
CDC.
Oklahoma Department of Commerce's website, for sure.
Yes, sir. And those phases are laid out and what everybody should be following. It's gonna be up to every citizen to follow the rules and regulations. And that's what it boils down to.
So basically, what we did back March 17th, we actually shouldn't have done that either.
Well, we were following,
We're following the-
we were following the state mandate.
Yeah, but if somebody wanted to stay open, we legally couldn't have done anything about it.
The state could have,
State.
because they were shut down.
I think
It's my, I mean, that's my
That's the way
understanding.
we were addressing it.
the state is, I mean, at a minimum, the enforcement.
We would make our report, you know, if it was like it was at the start of this, and the Open Up Safely plan wasn't released, and there were people open that should not have been, we would go to them, make contact, advise them they were not supposed to be open due to the governor's order. And if they were flat ignoring us, we would have turned it over to the police for them to make those reports with the district attorney's office.
The one other thing I think we do need to consider when we follow this, and I don't know that we have an option, is we are putting Mr. Wadley's personnel at somewhat at risk dealing with the spike, and that's what makes this decision tough too, I'm sure for him also. So, I mean, it's not an easy decision, but
We're working to keep our staff as safe as we can possibly keep them. I know that Chief Wadley's EMS staff, if they know that it's a COVID-related case, of course, what his report to me was, is that they go out in full hazmat gear.
Well, I did call the health department this afternoon to get their opinion, and they, like Chief Wadley said, that we're not even close to the peak, and they actually, in their opinion, advise not to reopen. But if we don't have any authority to do anything, if the governor says do it, then, you know, we'll see what happens.
In your visit with them, are they in need of help? Do they need more state help?
They said they've been so busy that they just literally don't have time to worry about anything right now, except for, I'm sure they do need more help. You know, I don't know anybody in the medical field right now that wouldn't need more help.
Any other discussion? Do I have a motion?
Well, in following state mandates like we have been following, we've been following the governor's orders up until today. And if we meet on a weekly basis, review the data, hopefully the task force has handed the data over to the health department by then and before our weekly meetings, then we have no real enforcement authority over it. I make a motion of opening of businesses according to the state of Oklahoma, open up and recover safely, hours plan, item 3.
I will second it.
I have a motion and a second.
Peterson?
Aye.
Swager?
Aye.
Alvedras?
Aye.
Egger?
Aye.
Livengood?
Aye.
We've got 5 ayes.
Item 4, we will stand adjourned. Thank you.
If you don't feel safe, don't do it. Yeah, if you don't feel safe, don't do it.